a little rant, we may as well share it with the world.
We might as well share this rant with the world. We're going 2 minutes early. Hello there, Johnny. I hope you're all right. And 2024 is going well for you. Whilst we await the others, we were just ranting, and well, the others will want to rant in on this as well. But we're talking about the Boeing problems at Boeing, and it's just extraordinary, isn't it? How well. It would seem that there's systematic failures up and down the production line, and I'm always of the view that trouble starts at the top. You can't actually blame the people tightening up the nuts and bolts and the various inspectors and things. It's got to go to start with the managing director's head's got to be on the block first. Hello there, Dan, or CEO, I suppose he is. But
the question is how they've allowed this to happen. Who's allowed this to happen? Because it's not just that manager at the top, it's all the other managers in between as well, because it'll start with one manager's idea to do something, to change something, and then it'll go up like, oh, it can save us all this money. Now, let's face it, Boeing's track record in the past few years has not been the best. No. And I don't think anyone's been to jail yet, have they, for the other incidents?
No, and do you know, that seems so long ago now that I've kind of forgotten. And I suppose the other thing to say is that that this is the second really major incident this year, and we're only 8, 9, 10 days, whatever it is, 9 days into 2024, and there's already been 2 really serious incidents. Of course, the other one's nothing to do with the manufacturer of the aircraft. But it does speak to things like the stoplights on the taxiway being US, and I don't know. It is amazing the standards we're being held to as new entrants, as it were. Even hello there, Tommy. Even though we've been around since 1918, new entrants into this space.
It's really, really puzzling because, for example, RCA says that absolutely, if there's any risk of anything falling off a drone or the drone falling out the sky, the flight should never happen. They want that horizontal separation, really. That would be their perfect scenario. However, the industry kicked up a bit of a stink and we've got overflight still. But could you imagine trying to justify to all of us that a 737, the Air Max is going to fly over and into London? Do you try justifying that to us when doors are falling off them? And that's kind of scary because how many have now had issues? It's not just that one, is it? Let's be clear.
No. Well, I wonder if we'll ever actually find out. But I know another airline's inspected them and found the doors to be. Oh, there we go. Right, let's switch this on. Like that happened on time.
Gary just got power back, everyone. Gary just got his power back.
Yeah, and I can tell who's it that so Johnny, I can tell you where Bruce is. He has no power today, but his power should also be back at any time soon. So they would have arrested him for. Hello, who's this coming as well? Is this? Oh, here's the troublemaker.
The troublemaker.
Here is the troublemaker. Yeah. Did I get him on the stage? Okay, I can't tell.
Yeah, he's here. I can see him.
Coming up there. Hello there, Ian. We started slightly early because we were ranting about the Boeing situation before we started. So I just hit the go because we were just. It just seems an incredible situation, doesn't it? And it beggars belief, really, that they can be allowed to get away with it. He says as he gets all the Southern gear ready. But yeah, I think your freedom of information request that to the Civil Aviation Authority, which I will put up when I've got the other machine running, that exposed their thoughts on urban air mobility vehicles using open source software was really quite the scoop. So well done you.
Yes, thank you. It's attracted a lot of attention, more than I was expecting. It's had over 3,000 views on LinkedIn today. Oops, Gary's had a bit of an accident there. I can't hear you, Mark. You're on mute.
Sorry, yeah, he's managed to kill himself quite happily and disconnect himself. So your feed information then. So you've got how many views so far?
Over 3,000 for a LinkedIn post. I don't have that many followers on LinkedIn. I don't normally post on it that much until recent weeks. So yes, I think I posted. I don't know if it was this morning or whenever, but yeah, it's had a lot of views, mainly international, and lots of comments. A lot of people going, "Why did you ask that question?" And I'm like, if you were watching what was going on in the world, you'd know exactly why I asked that question.
And the reason you asked that question is about a certain manufacturer, isn't it?
Well, I would never confirm nor deny it to do with a certain manufacturer, but it's a fair. To be fair, actually, I did have one in mind amongst others, but it is a general thing that is going on well beyond just China as well. Actually, there's some of this tomfoolery going on in the United States of America.
Really?
So yes, there was one I was looking at, and I was like, you've got an urban air mobility vehicle, although you're not quite marketing it like that, and you've decided to put in the orbit feature. Now that's very strange. If you were creating an urban air mobility vehicle, it sounds like you've taken drone software and accidentally put it on your vehicle. But obviously, you never know, because no one's quite clear. But that's when I had a look at one of their staff members' LinkedIn profiles for his skills, and he's going, "Agipilot, Pixar," and I'm like, "Oh."
I missed it. Do you have further look at eHang? Can you hear me okay?
I was saying it's not just an issue in China. We've seen some of this going on in America, and the other ways, there's so many ways of seeing this going on, and one of them I'd seen was with a eVTOL having the orbit feature. Well, you just don't go and code that in when you do that kind of thing. That's when you put software on it, and you thought, let's just leave that on because it's a cool feature for us to show off. And it's like, yes.
And all those things, like like when you have those spiraling shots and the zoom away, it'd be quite funny if all those specialist camera shots are on the thing as well. But and I think you were about to say before I dropped my phone and disconnected myself from the thing that that it was LinkedIn where people are getting quite het up about that comment, and that's pulled quite a few professional developers into that conversation on LinkedIn, and that has made me chuckle.
It's been an odd one because there's some people that are commenting that are like almost like, this is just an obvious thing. Why would you even ask it? And I'm thinking, no, it's not. If you're looking at what's going on, there is a very good reason to ask it. We need a kind of level of a reassurance that regulators are thinking about these kind of questions.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that was a bit odd. I don't know. I don't know whether it was misunderstanding some of the comments, but I don't know. Some of it was a bit almost like being a bit know-it-all after the fact. I'm thinking, well, if why no one else? And some people just saying, like a bit like, why have you asked it? And it's like, well, I just felt it needed to be asked because of what we're seeing going on. I don't know, but I am pleased that the CAA did answer it, because what they said was, because with the freedom of information, you can't ask for an opinion as such. You can ask that they could check the documents to see if someone's expressed an opinion and tell you. And what they said was, we have checked our documents and no one's actually recorded an expressed opinion on this. However, we're choosing to go outside of the freedom of information. We'll answer this for you anyway, which is what they've done. Are you going to show it in a moment, or shall I?
I've just you could tell I was doing it, couldn't you? I just pulled it up. Right, so are you ready to go with it? Here we are. Can you see it?
It's just loaded up. FX Node saying in the comment, I think RG Pilot has a specific non-man use or something. Yes, correct. There's code of conduct, but that doesn't exactly mean you're not going to see it in man use. What it means is the developers cannot officially support any manned use. That has an interesting consequence, though, because it means if you decide to do manned use of RG Pilot, you are choosing to do that, and I assume you're choosing to take the liability of that as a company as well. But in doing so, you would end up with essentially an unsupported code from the official developers that have got all the experience. So you will be maintaining that yourself. So if you found some significant bug, you would be having to do something about that yourself rather than having the expertise of the team. And you would also have the problem that if things are being fixed bug-wise, you need to be on top of it and see what's being fixed and merge that in yourself. So it's pretty complicated. So Gary's showing you on screen at the minute, and this was the question.
I never get this bit right. Where
you just keep scrolling down to the last response. You just look at those banners at the top. In fact, we'll be looking for today's date, so that is the 9th, isn't it? So the top of this one will have the PDF.
Oh, the PDF, right? All right. This one.
Yeah, there we go. So, this is another one. This is the other. Now, this is specifically eHang, and this is interesting as well because eHang did a filing. I think it's to the Securities Commission. It's in the US, and I think it's the stock markety kind of thing, where you say, "This is what we're up to. This is why we're superb." And they had said. They had done a filing and they'd specifically named the UK as a trial country for a large experimental demonstration. And what the CAA have told us is that they did receive an application from eHang. However, after eHang had started chatting with their RPAS team, for some reason, they've decided to just pull out and withdraw. The question is really whether they've actually told their investors this was the case. So I remember seeing this at the time, and we would have chatted about it briefly on the show because this is partly what had sparked my interest at the time because we'd seen obviously what had gone on with the airspeed, but even at this point, it was obvious that we were seeing some things out of eHang that were more than slightly suspicious, and it was thinking. Are they just going to use the UK airspace as their own little marketing exercise to? Because what tends to happen with the UK is you'll do a demo here, and whether your demo goes incredibly well or it goes completely pear-shaped and it crashes into the ground and nearly kills people, you will tell everybody that it went exceedingly well and everyone was woo, and your product is. It is a world
and
leading.
People call me cynical.
You'll say your product is world leading because the CAA have given you permission to fly it here. That's what it's all about. It's in the UK saying that the CAA, because the CAA, there is still with the UK in general with the authorities, there is this perception that we do things very much by the book, and if you get the tick here that says you can do something, that gives you some kind of prestige. So my concern here was that eHang were wanting to use the UK airspace as some prestige, but the odd thing is it's never happened. So maybe it'll be interesting to ask what emails happened on what date and whether we can see any of that. But I would suspect they would do some commercial kind of exclusion on that. But yeah, that's this one. So this is interesting of itself. It's definitely interesting if you put some money into the company, believing they were flying here, and clearly they did.
Yes, yeah, they've definitely spun a story to a lot of people around the world, and I didn't have time to look at this one before it came on. In some ways, this is a better one than the other one, even I think. And you just know if this one was to go up on LinkedIn, people would melt. You just know they will, and they'll wonder what on earth's going on, because eHang still very much is the darling of all these things, with its bit of paperwork from China. But yeah, I'm afraid they are due to be, well, as FX Node says, do the nuts and bolts come off? And that's exactly where I was going with that. They are due to be the Boeing, I think, of the UAM AAM world.
I think that's been rather harsh on Boeing, to be quite honest.
You reckon?
Yeah, I do. But time will tell. I mean, at least Boeing, well,
at least. How could you start that with at least? I don't think there's an at least there at all. They've reduced the safety inspections.
Yeah.
They've got themselves exempt from all sorts of engineering things.
Yeah. No, I was thinking about Boeing in the long term of all its history. It started off as something, and has been for a long time, as something very credible and by the book, really, and then it seems to have all gone nastily wrong. But having what had gone wrong.
Forward. Has he got, or as he sits up, has he got a bloody Boeing T-shirt on or something? I mean, it's to say Boeing on his chair.
I can't believe you're defending Boeing like this.
I'm not defending them. I'm just saying you're saying Boeing here, eHang here, they're the same. I'm like, oh, hang on a minute. Boeing do have some airspace heritage and a lot of good that they've done it in the past.
I'm going to be really horrible now, and I'm going to be the bad person in the room. Their heritage in the last 5 years, their
heritage is 5 years.
Their heritage means nothing if you look at their past 5 years of what they've done. I'm sorry, right? But Boeing is a massive multinational. No one's gone to jail for the stuff that happened with the two that went in. Their software was farmed out. I think it's disgusting. And it just goes to show money can get you out of anything. I'm sorry.
Yeah,
I have very little respect for Boeing.
Yeah, I mean, what happened with the Mac software is kind of to aviation what the post office scandal thing was.
I was just going to say that. Yeah.
And they walked away with everyone clear with no criminal charges. I think basically a kind of deal was done. If you be straight about this and what went on and that, and we won't put any of you in prison, which is kind of a very, very nice deal for them.
But then the next bit is, as Gary was saying, inspections no longer happening in the production line like they were, and now we've got doors coming off them. Come on, I mean, what the hell?
I think there was a comment, I don't know how accurate it was, but suggesting that there's somewhere in the region of 500,000 bolts on these aircraft, and just hoping that ones, there are a lot more crucial ones and just around the door, and hoping they're all not as equally unscrewed.
Well, yeah, but it was I think it was 4 bolts and 12 latches or something like that were involved in this whole thing. And of course, I hadn't crossed my mind the manner of which it if it's Boeing, we ain't going. Yes, any more cool cat. It went up. Loctite shares were cut this month. And the tape. What's that tape?
Gaffer tape.
Gaffer tape. Yeah, but it actually flew up, they reckon, when it departed the aircraft. But imagine if it had gone up. I mean, there's so many imagines. If they hadn't been in the takeoff phase, seatbelts still fastened, people would have gone out. There's no doubt about it.
Well, not only that, in America, the seatbelt sign stays on to 16,500 feet. If it had been flying in the EU or Europe at 10,500 feet, the seatbelt sign comes off. If that had happened in the European airspace, people would have gone out the door because you could just unbuckle your seatbelt. That's a big difference between the two countries. If that happened in this country, or in European airspace, there would have been people sucked out.
Yeah, I don't know quite. Yeah, what I think they keep it at 7,000 feet, don't they? Once it's pressurized, I think that's what they do.
So in the, like I say, for European airspace, it's 10,500.
No, the actual aircraft.
Oh,
So
yeah,
the aircraft thinks inside. I think, but I stand to be corrected. We'll have an airline pilot in the comments that'll tell us. I think they keep them to about 7,000 feet, so you wouldn't have that much of a disparity. But either way, they were very, very lucky. And apparently the crew door is supposed to open on a rapid decompression, but that shocked the crew. The crew didn't know that was I mean, it just opens up all sorts of LinkedIn's got this weird, and dear viewers, this audience, please go onto LinkedIn and start tuning the flipping experts on LinkedIn on various things. They've got this awful article generating thing where a question's put up by somebody and loads of people then, I don't know if either of you guys have answered any of them, start answering with authoritative answers, which means you put your company details in and say, my company will help sort out whatever you think this question is. But there's some real nonsense going into those authoritative answers to questions, and they need people like ourselves and like our dear audience to get in there and put them straight on a lot of these things. I don't know why I started down that rant now. It's just the LinkedIn crowd. I think that's where I spent most of my time annoying people. I think it's a fun crowd to wind up because they all think they're being, it's serious and it really matters, and they don't take it. I just take it to be Facebook Plus. That's all. It's not that great. But I thought our chat last week with Brian was amazing, and that will prove to be, I think, one of the most important things that we've put down in this sector, as people are beginning to realise the implications of remote ID. They're beginning to join the dots with the EU-wide sharing of airspace data to people like DJI from trusted sources, which is how it always should have been. It always should have been promulgated from the regulator, not the manufacturer. But that data is going to be the data that network remote ID gives you the go or no go. So I find it quite amusing, the jubilation of folks saying, whoa, look, all these no-fly zones have gone. It's like, whoa, wait, they're going to get worse.
Yeah.
They're going to get a lot worse. Because then you're going to have no-fly zones popping up around model aircraft fields. So let's say you've got a commercial op, you're not going to be able to fly in that model aircraft field and things like that. I predict that's going to happen if it comes through. But anyway, this long rant is to say, I think people, and the consultation ends tomorrow, doesn't it?
It ends on the 10th, yeah. One day to go. And here's the thing. I think you're right, because in Europe, in YASA world, in the EU, because we're in Europe, I think they're bringing it out so that your drone, if it's C2 rated, will only work in certain areas. And see, how has it become, we're about to become the most restrictive industry ever? Because if your aircraft isn't C rated, it won't work, kind of thing. It is a massive form of control. It's quite interesting in some respects. I think,
and it's been, people have marched towards it. I can't think of a phrase to go with that, but they've just walked into it eyes wide open and thinking everything's going to be great, and it's not.
No, it's not. I mean, the thing is, I'm kind of glad we're not in YASA now, and that sounds bad to a degree, but if you look at the paperwork YASA need for something versus our CAA, I'm beginning to think.
But the CAA haven't actually worked on what's required yet. They haven't decided, so it's going to be a lot worse.
Well, it might not be. I mean, there is a chance it might not be. But if you take what's really interesting now, Europe is, the EU is now meant to be regulated. So no matter what country you go to, you should be able to do X, Y, Z, and you know what you can do X, Y, Z. You wouldn't believe how many countries in the EU still haven't got it sorted out either. People go, RCAAs, that's nothing. There are national aviation authorities that are even more behind. Our guys are pretty clued up. They're not, they are a good bunch, but actually, oh my God, when you start hearing from other operators around from the EU, oh man, we have not got it as bad as some.
Well, that's good. That's good. Let me have a look at the news. I haven't, because not a lot has happened. In fact, there's been hardly any stories this week on many fronts. There's been nothing. So it's been very, very slow news week, beginning of the year, I suppose. Has there been anything else that's caught your guys' eyes or worth a rant? Ian's always got extra rants.
Yeah, Ian's got the rants.
Oh, you're muted.
I was going to give you a nice fluffy story. I'll put it.
Oh, go on then. Bloody hell! Something's wrong.
We've got another dog rescued. I mean, that's surely very important.
Yes, I shall share that, the Houghton Conquest one. Yes. Funnily enough, Sarah said, "Oh, look, have you seen this dog?" She even picked up, it even made the news here. So this story has gone international. Although I did immediately think, because I used to live near Houghton Conquest, I wonder if that was in Luton Zone. But anyway, I wonder if they were flying in there. But yeah, is this the one that was in the hedge? I think it is, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
It's got trapped with its lead.
I mean, it has to be said, there is a Facebook group, Dog Search and Rescue in the UK.
Yes.
They do fantastic work. These guys, if your dog is lost and it's on Facebook, even the commercial groups, the mini groups, everyone will point you towards this group. They have saved and found so many dogs. It's astounding. And they've not just done dogs. I think they've also done other animals as well. You know, they help find sheep in bad weather and stuff. They do a fantastic job, and they're just volunteers. You know, you get in touch on the group, they will come out and find. Oh, what a beautiful dog!
Yeah, you see, there we go. There's the R shot. Yeah, but of course they won't be able to do that soon with their DJI drones just about everywhere. Anyway.
No, I need to find an Autel. I need to find an Autel Mini that's not got any geo zones, and I can just do what I do anyway because I don't. I find
well, just as long as you don't update the firmware, and or if you find the firmware for Ukraine, because there is a Ukraine firmware out there for them, so that would do it as well. Yeah.
Ooh.
Yeah, there is.
What does that do for?
Yeah, but what if it changes to Ukrainian? Then you're in trouble.
Absolutely, and of course there was the is it real or isn't it real shot of the Autel new big thing with a set of bomblets underneath it with a carrier. I'm of a mind to think that even that Autel are not that foolish that they would release.
No, I mean I didn't repost that because it didn't to what I could see actually have a link directly to an Autel site doing that. So
it didn't ring true to me either. So I didn't repost it, and I've seen the shots of those just as a carrier unit that you can buy. I've seen you can just without anything attached to it. So yeah, I didn't think that was worthy of posting, but a couple of people have wrung that one out completely dry and run with it, just saying FB almost get a free pass. Well, yeah, I don't. Well, I don't know.
As long as you're following the rules for the airspace you're in, then that's fine. And I think it should be more like that. People should be responsible for their actions. You know, yeah, they will.
I think John's right to an effect there, and I keep meaning to right thing. I think it's going to be, and I don't mean this in a derogatory way, but I think it's going to return to more simple systems that just get the job done, whatever the job is that the professional needs. That job and no more, not all the bells and whistles. I think we're going to see a great resurgence.
This goes back to Philip Rouse, though, and he should be told off. And the fact that I think we're on year 6 at least of me going to Argy gimbal. Yeah. And the fact is, there aren't enough gimbal choices. Is what stopped it. If there was some, small, very wonderful gimbal for it, and there had been for years, there'd be a lot more RG Pilot adoption than there is.
it would be
Yeah.
nice to have some of these lovely, why is there not a version of the mini camera on an Ardu gimbal, or why the Mavic Pro, you know, a 2-inch sensor on an Ardu Pilot gimbal? When that happens, the market will flip and change, and it will be overnight for a lot of users. You know, you imagine getting like a decent phone camera with the controls. It'd be amazing, and I'm really surprised we've never really had it. You know, it is quite bizarre.
I mean, I do think really there should be a thought again. You know, maybe one even the for Philip of, you know, there, you know, not, I don't really want to say it's a solo, because you think the same thing, because it'd be something very different, but actually to create a craft, you know, something that's more something like your Mavic, where you can more or less buy an off the shelf Ardu Pilot that isn't shit. And I will say that because they do a lot of, this is all Ardu Pilot and that, but it's more like it's an experimental, fun science project thing, really, rather than here we've got an off the shelf that's go out and actually do a commercial job. And just so you know, when I say commercial job, I mean like just do a roof inspection, something that, you know, sub 250, a sub 250 drone that can be used just for video photography, a few general tasks that would sell. You know, it doesn't have to match the DJI price. People would pay more, and some people would buy it as well for the fact of, hey, I'm learning a new system, because when you sat in just the DJI world, that's you're not getting a full understanding of how drones operate and the freedoms you can have, and just other opportunities. I mean, like I've never had an opportunity to use it, but it's got like the Lewis scripting, so that you could code your own flight mode and your own kind of bespoke shot that you want to do, and just people who think, wow, I could actually influence this drone and make it something a lot more cool. You know, there would be people that would be genuinely interested in thinking, hey, let's give that a go. And there's no harm in getting some new skills. And so, yeah, I think it's a bit of a missed opportunity not to have done that. I mean, I can understand why no one ever really wants to, because it's a risky game. And once you get DJI's attention, obviously they make with the world hard for you by then trying to put a competing product and putting it out where it's making no profit and it's just there to crush you. But I think you could sit there in a way where you're not challenging DJI directly, but just being an alternative.
Let me just put up a bit of video. I hope you didn't hear that audio then. No, stop talking. To be quite honest, it's something I didn't really understand.
We didn't hear any audio. I didn't anyway.
You didn't hear it? Okay, all right. Hopefully you'll hear audio this time. Let's see if I can get this bigger in the screen.
This is a quick demonstration of a new Mav proxy module, which allows OpenAI's ChatGPT to control the pilot vehicle.
This is when you mention Lua scripting. This is the next leap.
So for those of you who aren't familiar with Mav proxy, it is a developer-focused ground station. So a bit like Mission Plan or Q Ground Control, but more for use by developers. So it's got this new chat screen here, and I can use this to interact with ChatGPT. So for example, I can ask it, what vehicle am I using? Now that audio is sent off to ChatGPT and it turns it into text. And then ChatGPT comes back and asks questions which are forwarded onto the vehicle responds, etc. Anyway, so it just answered me saying that I'm using a copter. I can also just type it in. Sometimes that's easier.
So if you find no tell at this point, you put, is my drone equipped with grenades?
Current, barometer, and GPS altitude. a little bit of lag. It's got to go off to California and back.
I still think this one here is a bit gimmicky, really.
Vehicle's altitude is 947 meters, which is where I am.
So you said what? Sorry.
I think this is a tad gimmicky, unless he's going to show us in a minute where he's going to tell the vehicle things to do.
About sea level.
He is.
So
that is what's going to happen.
Some information on the barometer altitude as well. 1.158 meters above home. So yeah, then I can actually also control the vehicle. So what I'm going to do next is ask it to take off to 3 meters.
That's getting scary now.
Well,
Now, to do this, it will need to switch to guided mode, arm the vehicle, and issue a takeoff command. So it's just asking me to confirm that that's what I want. And we can see down here on the MAV proxy screen, it has armed the vehicle. Propellers are spinning up, and it tried to take a takeoff command, did not work. So let's just try that again.
I'll let it take off and then we'll
Just ask it to do it again. Maybe it'll be successful this time.
please try again.
It worked. There it goes. Okay, there it is. Now I'm going to ask it to rotate the vehicle 180 degrees. A little spelling mistake in there, but that's okay. It'll figure it out.
There you go. Mitchell says it.
That's quite scary.
It's interesting, isn't it? I didn't know. I didn't really know what to think of it. I know it's kind of cool. I know, gosh, that's kind of the next thing. But yeah, I haven't Mitchell really. Yeah, there we are.
I see that as a bit gimmicky because I've used the Amazon Alexa, and I know when I've told it to turn off my light in the front room and it's turned on the shed light, and then giving that kind of power.
Is the shed at the back or the front of you? Have you told Alexa where the front of your house is explicitly?
Oh, it
might
knows
be
all
that's the
that.
front of your house.
It just decides to misinterpret what you're saying, and I think sometimes maybe it's just a grumpy mood and it does it for fun.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, here's a little I can tell you, dear viewers, a little secret. The developers conference is going to be in America this year, and it's going to be at Reno, and this and many other things. Nobody's given me permission to say that, but nobody watches, so it doesn't matter. Look for a dog with a thermal camera. Yeah, so that's going to be one of the things that's there, so you can go and see them, especially if you're in America. It's normally held in Australia because that's where Tridge lives, but this year it's going to be in the Americas. So there's going to be some opportunity for some fooling around with stuff like that and other things for those that are interested. But yeah, well, my friend Luke, he was quite excited about this. He drew my attention to this. I didn't know what to make of it, really.
So someone in the comments has said, but I disagree with this, so I'll be interested in what you think. It says the open source community for drones is relatively small, so progress is slow. I don't think it's. There's millions of people running ArchiPilot, and the progress is very quick, and DJI often is years and years and years and years behind. I'm trying to think, because there was something I saw that DJI tried to claim, and yeah, Brendan, it was Brendan had put it out, and what's his face? It was another well-known DJI, and this is after they'd left, and I said, oh, wait a minute, ArchiPilot did that first.
Well, there were lots of camera modes.
It was ADS-B detection. It was like, they had about 2 to 3 years on you.
Yeah, absolutely. And the I think I think open source moves a lot faster than you think, and I think the trouble with why isn't there a ready to go unit with a gimbal, be it PX4 or RGPilot or whatever? It's because the devs aren't doing that. They're not interested in building a thing or a company to build that thing. They're not interested in it. They're on to the next thing. And if anything, the main problem that they perhaps have isn't the laser like focus that DJI have on a product line and a thing and a thing and a thing, because it's on to the next exciting thing. And every single delivery drone that's separate lift thrust is using RGPilot or a ported version of it. Every single one. They've got the best flight characteristics by far now, and no one else can touch it. Tridge has worked really hard on that, and one has to remember that sort of sprung out of the Outback Challenge. Really, all of that came from those aircraft that they were using there, and it's just got better and better and better. Do you remember they had the Ardu AI? Yeah, I hope not. I hope not, John. If it was up to me, I'd tell them. I do say it quite often. Should get rid of the Ardu everything, because it's nothing to do with Arduino at all anymore. Really, it sort of dumbs it down before you start. Dare I say? But there we are. I say time to choose a punchy new name. Maybe we should try and get a community vote on it. But you're right, Ian. There are thousands and thousands and thousands of people using it, all around the world, all the time.
Yeah, and it's a lot of very smart people contributing into it, because it's a lot of people in academia. You know, it's if you want to say, well, I'm learning in the drone world, I'm applying my knowledge. It's a good way of doing it by putting some code in there and saying, well, you know, you can use that as an example then to an employer as well, and saying, no, I'll put this out into the drone world. So yeah, I'm still pretty positive about it all when it comes to the software side. I mean, we're always saying cool. I mean, even that thing there, whether you think it's a gimmick or not, it's been done, and it's like, hey, look at us doing it. But I'm more interested in the stuff of which we've seen RGPilot make movements even years back of operating without GPS assistance. You know, that's a really important use case, and anything we can do to make drones more. I mean, where it's been important, it's been about the reliability side. I mean, I switched to it from DJI because when DJI was still saying flyaways are all user errors, which was rubbish, it was crap software and crap hardware as well sometimes, and a mixture of the two. RGPilot were owning it and saying people are having flyaways, and this is why. And Randy, we saw in that video, he'd done GPS glitch protection, which has evolved over the years. So it would be calculating in the software, thinking this is where I should be, and it'd be saying, well, GPS is telling me I'm over there, but that's nonsense, because I couldn't be anywhere near over there because I know where I've been and I couldn't have got there in that time. So I'm going to ignore the GPS, wait for it to reset, and then everything's fine. And so they were doing that, but back when DJI had a commercial interest, they're thinking, we've got, if we admit that our drones are crashing, we're going to have people asking us for recompense. So they were benefiting from that denial, and there were a lot of people, even in the commercial world, and probably still flying about, that were part of that, of jumping on people and telling them it's their fault and switching to manual. And it's like, whoa, wait a minute. If you actually look what's going on in the RGPilot world, you would see that that's complete nonsense, and there's a complete acceptance that the hardware we're running on these days does do these funny things, and you've got to handle it in the software. So yeah,
Cliff's going brilliant. I must admit, John's I mostly worked, so I laughed at, but Cliff's that's great. That's really great, and I'm trying to quickly get as a badge for that. Let's see. Can I share that? And this is only this is Ian's fault that I've started doing this sort of thing. So no pilot. Obviously, the AI. I must find out how to get how to get them to put the words in properly, but no pilot. I'd be fantastic. Have you worked out how to get the wording in properly, Ian?
I normally put the prompt with the text and put it in quotes, but it's very hit and miss. You sometimes just got to render it quite a few times until it gets it right. But the Bing one's actually better with text than Adobe is, but that's the main struggle with image generation at the moment, is getting that. Sometimes what I actually do is I get it to do, I say, put in a blank white banner. So actually don't have it fill it in, and then just do that myself manually in Photoshop. Sometimes that's just the easier way of doing it.
Speak to Cliff's agent. Yeah, and advanced recovery and direction part. Yeah, very good. Yeah, and I'm sure we could all come up with a name for it, but it would open a huge can of worms. But I think it should have been done. It should have been done when they tried to destroy it. That's when the opportunity happened. When certain forces tried to make it go away in favor of another project. But we missed that opportunity, I think. So 45 minutes. What else have we got to talk about? Was there anything in the audience? Anyone in the audience spotted anything this week that they want to talk about? So really, it's been so quiet.
By the way, the freedom of information stuff earlier on, we didn't jump on the actual one we were initially talking about, which is in the private chat, which was the wider just eVTOL question. So you might just want to pop that on, and then people know what we're about.
I will put that one on.
And that gives people a chance in the comments to have a think of anything else they think's newsworthy in the minute.
Yes. Am I just going for this viewers HTML reply up here? I guess I am I?
Yes, if this is the right one. Yes. So
yes.
Basically, I'd asked, and credit to the CAE, because this is one I mentioned, where when you're asking an opinion, if that opinion hasn't already been talked about and written about within their organisation, they don't have to answer, but they've chosen to anyway, which shows a good level of responsibility, and I thank them for that. Funnily enough, I did get a DM for somebody internationally that asked their regulator, and they very much, they've just been really wishy-washy and not giving them an answer. So he was appreciative of seeing this, because it would probably help his quest of getting an answer. So the question was, does the CAA have any stands recorded, even if from informal discussions on email or such like, regards the certification of eVTOL craft? Should they be using software developed specifically for the purpose of unmanned drone flight? So basically, I was saying, are the likes of ArduPilot, PX4, those kind of things that you can get off the shelf, as it were. And we know this is going on with eVTOLs, or some of them. Would you certify it? And the CAA have been pretty clear. They've gone over a number of paragraphs to explain, and they have said, if you scroll down the word, it gets stronger, doesn't it? It's
yes. Yeah.
The CAA's position would be that it would be extremely unlikely. So it's not just unlikely; it's extremely unlikely that they will tick it off if you just taking software, sticking it on your eVTOL, and away you go kind of approach. So it doesn't say you will not at all be able to.
Yes,
but I think you'd have to be very robustly doing that. For example, you had taken ArduPilot and you're having to fork it. You've got a load of risk in doing that. But say you did that, and then you actually got some of the developers to leave and employed them full time as experts for your software. You also took out all the clutter, because my concern would be when you're using drone software, all that stuff that's in there, acro mode, drift, even the smart shots. You don't want that code left in there, because it could introduce bugs. Because, if there's any overlap with code and so on. There's also that of it being accidentally executed. I mean, last thing you want to be doing is find an eVTOL in acro mode. You know, you don't be
Yeah.
spinning around
Yeah.
and flying upside down.
Absolutely. Yeah. No, it's very interesting, and it'll make, well, of course, the reason the photo I used in the thumbnail for this hangout was the one in Spain that the police, I think it was in Spain, were considered using, and I can't remember somewhere else in or was it Portugal? Maybe it was Portugal, but somewhere else in Europe as well. They claim to have got into and have flight demos, and I think even at Paris. So somebody has got to definitely look at their software long and hard, and have it explained to them very, very well indeed. Very well indeed. I know before.
I was going to say, to jump in, my concern with software is I think that's been the weakest area with regulators, because they're used to the old world of, you know, your conventional aircraft. You're thinking more about the airframe and those kind of questions. Where I think with the eVTOL stuff, but you know, a lot of that isn't all that dissimilar with the airframes and what they're trying to achieve. You know, the differentiators is often the software that some are getting to market unusually quick, where other people are, you know, got their own teams, they're writing software, they're spending a decade doing it. It also strikes me as a slightly unfair playing field when you're doing it. But you've got that, yeah. If you're creating something you're flying about, the idea that you don't fully understand the software in it, to me, would terrify me.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And before we go, and for those that are wondering where Bruce is, he is experiencing the South African 6-hour no power experience is what Bruce has got at the moment. But he's got enough, he should have enough batteries lying around to be able to rig something up. But anyway, I was going to ask Mark, have you heard anything more about that drone dunking incident in the Thames?
I have.
Oh, you have. Oh,
Yeah.
Go on then.
I haven't, and I've watched the footage back again. It wasn't a GPS error, and it wasn't an RTK error, because the aircraft were hovering when they killed the motors. So I don't know. It must have been some sort of system error, but what it was, I don't know. The biggest thing you hear is about hacking, and wasn't a hack. You can tell straight away. But I want to know, Ian. Come on, tell us what you've heard.
Yeah, go on then. What do you know?
I can't say too much yet, because I don't know too much yet, other than the CAA are investigating, so it has got attention.
Yeah.
So I don't think it'll be long before we start getting it. Before there's information out there. I mean, the very fact that they're investigating, I think, obviously means there is some concern there. I've spoken to people kind of being involved in this, in these kind of shows. No one seemed. I've not got any very convincing opinions from anyone on it. You know, as Mark says, when you look at it, it's because you just wonder what's going on. No, I think that there is more the impression, I think, of thinking it's a human thing, it's an operator thing. It's been someone's made the decision to cut the power there. Maybe that was wrong. Maybe someone's panicked, or maybe there's something we don't know about that's going on that they felt they needed to do that. But I'm told, I don't know how accurate this is, that on the actual display day, one of the drones actually went and hit a hospital. I mean, obviously they're not that massive a drone or whatever, but the fact is, if one has gone out of the show and hit a building, I guess the concern.
Well, where's the hospital along the Thames, though? Gosh, that might be almost.
I didn't really quiz it. I just heard that, and it was from a source I would consider pretty reliable. So
I've actually heard the same thing, but for a drone. So what happens is when you upload your show, so you have your drone show and then you upload it. Now on our drone software, now theirs might be different because Sky Magic, they use their own bespoke system. but with ours, what you do is you set the GPS cutoff. So there's like an invisible barrier around the swarm, and if a drone leaves, basically it gets to the barrier and then it will land. And if it doesn't land, you can then tell it. We can actually just turn our aircraft off, so you would just kill the motors, very much like they did when they fell into the Thames. But ours actually kills all power to the aircraft, the light and everything. But if one left the swarm, was it a fault on an aircraft? Because when you're flying 600, 100, be it 50 drones, it's not like flying one DJI drone. It's not like flying one Argycopter aircraft. You are flying a lot more. The chance of one going or having a niggle is higher, because it's one of those things with a swarm, which is why it's always a sterile area. It should be a completely sterile area. Now, I'd love to know where the hospital is on the Thames as well, because I heard one hit. I've heard someone say hit pavements, but I've not seen anything like that either. So
well, let's look. Where do we think it
Someone
was?
said St. Thomas's Hospital in the chat.
Well, look, there's Guy's Hospital there. Where was this event? There's Tower Bridge.
So you've got to find the eye.
Oh, that's along here, isn't it? Isn't
So
it along here somewhere?
It was just down from the eye, wasn't it? It was what? I don't know how
Queen's
far down,
Walk.
but it was down from the eye. And I think...
Where's Parliament? I've forgotten where things are in London. Where's Parliament? That's Tower Bridge.
So well,
I would add, there's no point asking me because I think London's a shithole, so I never go anywhere near it.
Well, yeah, absolutely. No, I couldn't agree more. Westminster. Here's Parliament.
I have to say, my other half loves London. She wants to go into London because she just likes going to London. And me at the minute, with all the hassle that's going on into London, why would I put up with all of that? All I want to do is go out for the day, enjoy it. And do you know what? London is nice when there's no problems, when there's no hassle, when there's no protest march, when it's just a normal city, which is once in a blue moon. It can be all right for a good day out, but at the minute,
Did you say St. Thomas Hospital?
Yeah, that's what he said.
Because there it is. It's exactly where it is. It's exactly where it is. There's Westminster.
Can you bring that up on Google Maps? Can you show us, Gary?
Oh, are we not seeing it on? Oh, you're not
Yeah,
seeing
it's
it.
not very simple. Oh no, you're not.
Oh, silly me. Yeah, are you seeing it now?
Yes.
So where is it? So show us now.
It's here.
Right. So yeah.
It's here.
Now, what we don't know is where they took off and landed from. So if you actually watch that video of the night, you can see them flying back, and I'm wondering where they took off and landed from, because when you got a fleet of 600, that's a bit of space you need.
What I can tell you is I've flown a hot air balloon from there. But anyway,
Well, whereabouts is that? So where's the hospital again?
here. It was here, St. Thomas's Hospital.
Well, that's probably where they took off then. They probably did take off from there.
There is that park there below it, isn't there, which looks like quite a big space.
Yeah, they probably took
That's
off
not
from
a
there.
big. That's not a big space. I can tell you exactly where that space is like. It's not as big as it looks, and it's the palace. It is the palace grounds. Those gardens over there are okay. That one's. They're all very treeified. They're not what you think. How can I get rid of this? Get rid of it.
Trees are never your friend, especially with a swarm.
I can't easily get rid of all this. It's here, isn't it? That's how you get rid of all this.
You'd have to go onto Google Maps and make your life easier.
There we are. That's a bit cleaner, isn't it? Yeah, I mean, I suppose they could have, but didn't it look like they were on this side of the Thames, on the other side?
I can't remember, but they do stack. If you ever go back and watch the show itself, and you got to keep an eye out for it, you can actually see them flying back in a formation grid. So there's like a big grid of, I don't know, say 100 aircraft, and they're all flying back in great big formations. You can see them. So I think they probably did take off from that park behind the hospital, which would explain why one hit it. If one had a problem,
would make it easier to hit it. But then they've been going up over the buildings and into the Thames.
Yes. And maybe that was part of it. Maybe they couldn't get a barge.
You're absolutely right. Let's look at Google Maps so we can have a better satellite view.
The problem is we're kind of surmising here, and without
We
actually
are.
knowing the facts, it's very hard. You know, I've flown in a very congested place where we managed to fly in a 30 by 30 meter flight volume. You know, when you've got 72 drones in such a small space, you literally got them all stacking on top of each other. It is quite like,
Yeah, we get this one here.
It is when you look at it, you're going that's thousands of pounds there.
Oh, you know what? When you fly swarm, you can't think of it like that. You just can't think of the money in the air, because if you did, you're crazy.
Yeah, look, so see, that's all trees there. Look, so that'll be no good. That's that to go from Lambeth Palace. I've flown from it. It's up over quite a lot of buildings. And
you know what? It's either that or that side, isn't it? It's what
I think they were on this side. I bet. Well, I mean, you're right. We are just surmising. You're absolutely right.
It's without knowing the takeoff landing area, without anything else, it's so hard to say. And you know, you got to feel for the guys, because obviously, you know, if you look how many went in, and I know it's Sky Magic, and I know they're big, but regardless, if you lose one aircraft, it's you know, it's a bit of a you lose. But when you lose as many as they did, it's not good, you know. No. But they'll pick themselves up. Lessons have been learned from it. I'm sure the CA are going to ping us all a thing saying, you know, if you fly a swarm, watch out for X, Y, Z.
Yes.
My biggest concern of that is when things like this happen, it can have implications for everyone that's in that that niche. That
my dog's going up.
A, B, and C now, which you didn't have to do before.
Yeah, and it could be just a system thing. It could be just related to their system, which means it actually has no effect on how we operate our swarm or anything else. Which, you know, is something we will watch out for, but learning where and how it went wrong will be interesting regardless. And it was quite windy on the day before when they all were given the motor shut off command, because quite clearly that was issued to everything that was above the Thames. Yeah.
One thing that's interesting with this one, because I was just chatting with Philip about this, about, you know, GPS and jamming and RTK and all the other things of all these scenarios. I thought it just mentioned with the latest here that's coming along, you can do RTK without the ground station, so you don't need that.
Do they have compass on that? That's a very good question. I happen to know that Mark knows the answer to that.
I do know the answer to that. I can tell you that on Sky Magic's drone, they don't have one. Now, it's unusual. 1 second, let me just get my drone, because it's here.
So, and that the bloody porcupines is what the dogs are going nuts for. A porcupine out there.
So this is a light show drone. Now this is not a Sky Magic one. This is not one that went in. We do have the compass. Our compass is actually back here. So our drone does have the compass on it. But the Sky Magic ones, I'm sure I'm okay to say this, don't actually use a compass. So it depends upon the drone being used. So some aircraft have them, some don't. You know, we have the F9P on this drone as well. And then what you do is you see the aircraft is out there flying, and then you transmit the RTK corrections all the time in packets, and they go out over 2 channels. So your RTK is really robust, and this happens to, I think, every drone show that I'm aware of, be it on the 2.4, on the 5.8, or the 433, whichever channels you're using. Your RTK packets are sent to the drone. If it gets and those packets are numbered, if you like, so they have a code and they kind of go at the right order. If it misses the Wi-Fi one, the 433 will pick it up. So that's always your backup. That's always going on with a drone swarm. It's always getting that RTK information one way or another.
Yeah, and you mentioned that if that was ever lost for some reason, it'd fall back to GPS. So it just
Yes.
you
Yeah.
wouldn't
So
have the precision for that moment. Saying, look, you wouldn't be able to continue on running, but
well,
it wouldn't be devastating, would it?
So what happens is, so you've got like, I think there's like 4 levels. So you've got RTK, there's RTK float, which is, it's still RTK, but it's not, it's still working. Then you have GPS 3D, which then is like normal GPS, but in the 3D environment, you're still okay. And then you've got basic GPS, which is the final fallback. So there's like 4 levels we have. I think it's 4 or 5. I'm sure it's 4. Yeah, I'm sure there's the 4 levels, fallback. The only kicker is when you just go to GPS, you can be wildly out in any direction. GPS 3D isn't too bad in all directions, but you'll see shows where there's one not in sync. That's probably fallen to GPS 3D.
And can you pull that? Can you pull that one out of the formation, or tell it to come back later when you've sorted yourself out, pull yourself together, or?
So you've now got to make the choice. So you've got one drone, or you could have 2 drones that you can see have slipped out of RTK, for example, and they've gone to 3D GPS. You can see they're in the swarm. Do you pull that one out, or do you let it continue? Now, it depends where it is in the swarm, because the tough choice is you can't just drag it out if it's in the middle of the swarm.
Because that was my next question, was going to be, have they got a smart exit route of some sort?
No. So you kind of, now's your hard choice. You can tell it to land. So you could just send it out the swarm. You just go, right, just land, and it'll just descend through the swarm. So if it's doing a shape or something, you've got the risk it's going to hit something else, which then could bring down more drones. It could be that it's actually further, it has come out of the, it's a one on the side. You can see it's clear. You could go, right, we're going to land. You could leave it, and you could leave it and just give it a minute and see if it corrects itself. So normally you'll see it out and then it'll go, and it comes across. It's corrected itself. No need to panic. You've got to have enough about you to go, not panic to hit land all as soon as 1 or 2 lose RTK. You've kind of got to give them chance, because they've missed a packet. The next packet, you can see it happen, and literally pulls the drone back in. And it can only be seconds sometimes, and you just go, right, okay, it's back. But yeah, so we always have 2 remote pilots, and we're quite unusual in that respect, because normally you have a competent observer. Error margin tolerances depends. So we're typically flying sub 10 centimeter accuracy. Half a meter's nice, but they all fly about 3 meter separation from each other is the main thing. But yeah, back to our setup is dual RP. So if anything was to happen to RP1, I'm normally RP2. I can take over monitoring the swarm, and we can get it down if need be. But a lot of organizations, they have 1 RP and 1 what they call competent observer. So like me, the competent observer, RP2, all I'm doing is watching the swarm, and main RP is sat looking at it, and I'll ask him questions. If I see a drone that's misbehaving, I'll ask him, or I've seen it not in line, should I say. It's not misbehaving, it's not quite in situ. And he'll tell me what's going on with it, for example.
And does your ground control station, I don't know, turn the aircraft green if it's all good, and amber and red, or have you got an indication on the GCS what the health of each airframe? Yes,
but when you've got 100 drones, you can't scroll up and down all the time. But it does.
Scroll. So what? So is it in? So it's a written indication. You got to go up and down.
You have a.
It's not a map with them all on.
Yeah, you've got a big list of all the aircraft, and you can go and see what each one is doing. So battery voltage is everything. However, there is a indicator for warnings. So all your warnings and everything, they flash up in the top right. So if one comes out of RTK, it'll flash that number, for example.
Right, but then you still have to scroll to find it in the list.
I think you can shortcut it as well. But yeah, you've basically got a big list of them.
Gosh. Yeah, it's an interesting. Yeah, a very interesting human-machine interface, or UX, I think, is what the creative kids say these days.
Yeah, I mean,
UX problem, isn't it?
yeah, but Skybrush is absolutely brilliant. It's so easy and it's not full of clutter, which is what you want when you've got that many drones. You don't want clutter. You know, you can see your show, you can see it's uploading nicely. The drones have to do their pre-flights, so they all have to pass a pre-flight. If a drone doesn't pass its pre-flight, it never gets off the pad. So even at last second, if they all go to take off, one can get left behind because it didn't pass its pre-flight, for example. It'll just sit on the pad. So it's one of those things that can happen.
There we are.
And that's why you've kind of got to be very careful with everything. You kind of got to go, hang on a minute. So you've got one out of position. Do you try to drag it out, or do you see if the next data packet corrects its RTK position? And it will literally, you'll see them just fly to their position where they should be. And you go, right, it's got it.
And Andrew, we keep asking him, but he's just a miserable git and he's not doing it.
Yeah, we should have a live demo with this certain shape that I've asked for being done over.
So to answer one question is yes, the shows are designed in Blender. You can get a plugin, the Skybrush plugin, which is free, and then you can go and make your shapes in Blender and do your shows and stuff. It's really good. Some great YouTube videos out there on it. Yeah, it's just interesting when you're flying. But Skybrush is definitely the ones to is the software to check out if you're interested in.
Yes, and that's Ian popped this into the chat, and what my takeaway from this was, my word, the chap got away lightly. I don't know if anyone.
Well, he didn't quite get away as likely as it might seem. He now has a criminal record.
Oh yes, well yes,
as well.
Yes.
People just look at the money bill, have its drone confiscated, is then paid the fine. As Mark says, most importantly, it's still a criminal record, and that can have a lot of consequences.
And Fatboy Slim does have quite a few criminal records. That is true. Yeah.
I liked the comment on Facebook when someone said it was just following the instructions of right here, right now.
Yeah, there you go. He must be getting on a bit, old Fatboy Slim now, mustn't he? He's been around a while. Cool Cats wants to see a demo of 1,000 Drones in Mark's Lounge. Yes.
To be fair, looking at indoor one is on the cards at some point, he says. But yeah, doing a live demo is something we'd love to do. But at the minute, it's freezing cold out there. And I don't like stood in the field at being cold. No disrespect to anyone. I do not enjoy being cold. And the second thing is at the minute, due to the A57 being flooded at Dunham Bridge, which also got my business partner, his house got flooded about 3 months ago.
Oh dear.
Yeah, at the minute, it takes an hour and 45 minutes to get to our flying site.
I've heard you've had a bit of wet over there. Well, you'll have to just do a job on a Tuesday one day, and we'll have to join you at a job. And there's another, what's the average drones in the display show? I guess that's how much money you've got.
Yeah, I mean, so it depends. So, you know, how many drones do you need, kind of thing. We fly anywhere from 20 drones to like 100 and 100 is typically what we kind of fly at the minute, but we make them. So we do a lot of testing. I don't put on big shows. We're a build and design of the light show. This is made here in the UK. This drone is made here in the UK. So it basically
made. Just so to add legally, you assemble them.
Oh, okay. Sorry. So assemble. Well, the board's manufactured here. It's PCB.
That's that in itself quite. Yeah, that one I didn't know. So that's quite.
Well, you ready for the? I know I've said it before. I'm going to say it again. The failing replicator program in America. But you're ready for that, for absolutely certain. The UK is going to want to ramp up stuff like that. So if you can produce them in units of 100 at a time, you know, numbers of 100 at a time, and getting them out the door, then you're ahead of the game for any programs that they have for that sort of thing. And I again on LinkedIn, I read someone going on about how the military's got to ramp up for all this. So I just responded with, because I think it's called the British Armed Forces FPV Racing Association or something like that. It's like, well, they've got loads of in-house experts already. You know, it's
crazy. And you know, we all three of us know one of the biggest makers of drones in the UK.
Yeah.
You know, I'm not going to say his
Yeah.
name. I'm not going to say this, you know, but we know who I mean. And he doesn't just do that stuff. He does bigger stuff as well. But yeah,
it's there. It's there. They've just got to go. In America, we're coming into month 5 since they announced it, and nothing's happened. There's lots of talking. And how many iterations of drones and stuff have happened in Russia and Ukraine in that time? Loads.
I did see that repeater one. That repeater one was quite good.
Yes. Yeah. Again, I wasn't too sure about that.
Well, I thought, do you know what? It's basic and it's simple, and it would just work. You know what I mean? If you wanted to push a signal for a bit of time and you need to push it a bit of a distance, you put a few of them up. That's nice and simple.
Mm-hmm. And FX Node, if you want a cube, look out for Philip Wonka on SUS News. He hasn't appeared for a few days now, so it's likely that he is going to appear again soon. That's all I'll say. And click him and you can potentially enter and win. We've already given away 1 gold cube and a frisbee. So yeah,
I can't enter. It's annoying.
Well, yeah, I mean, and Ian's tried to enter, but we soon saw that. It's
Nice.
yeah, there's other prizes as well, other cubes. I'm going a bit ranty because I'm tired, so I think I'm going to put the hammer on this. Don't forget Think Flight's wonderful. In fact, let's just put it up again. I did put it up earlier. Share screen. I wish there was a way to instantly share these screens. Well done on 10xing your Kickstarter goal there. Goal of 15,000, 153,000. I'm sure yours and Daniel's wing will be a really excellent thing. So I look forward to seeing those hitting the shops. Let me put this link in the comments. Here we go. Yeah.
Oh, we have got some news that is worth a quick chat.
Oh, go on then. You always manage it right at the end. Go on then.
Yeah, to be honest, it's kind of not exactly new news, but it came about from a debate on Facebook, which was talking about. Oh, yes, and then there is a bit of news out of it because I don't think we chatted about this last week.
I'm worried now.
We had the show with the show, and they told us when we were chatting last year that they were going to be doing it'll be the most expensive drone test that has, impact test that's ever taken place in the world. I think then they were talking over £17 million, and it was to crash a drone into an airliner engine. Now that has actually taken place, so that has been done. The reason you haven't heard of it yet is because it didn't just boom, we're done, and let's just spam it out there. There's months spent analysing the data, because it's not just we want to crash the drone, because that's just one-off exercise and it's done. They've got the really fancy computer model that takes weeks to run to work out all the physics and what goes on. So they have a model already to say this is what would happen, but you don't know if your model's entirely true until you do the same test in real life, and then you see, was the model right? And if it wasn't, you then feed in what you know is true to make the model correct. So that will be going on. It'll be the FAA eventually that sign that off. So yeah, I had a quick chat to show. They said it's done. They said I was allowed to tell people it had been done. So I did so because I thought that's really interesting, because obviously we don't know the outcome. It might be good for us. It might be bad for us. But there can be never
Okay.
anything wrong from the fact that you're basing your decisions on science and having actually tested it. And what we have found to date, though, is where things are actually tested, drones turn out to be a lot less scary than the thinking that had been before. And I saw that already on LinkedIn when you were chatting about this. Some guy had jumped in and he was going, "Oh, drones, impact, blah, blah, blah." And I'm thinking, well, wait a minute. Years and years and years ago, Assure did the testing where they got the drones, they flowed them into crash test dummies. They did the same thing as the motor industry does, and already found out that the head injuries percentages were way, way, way lower than they were expected. So they compared dropping bricks and metal and all this stuff, which is in the models that are used up until that date of the damage that a drone would do, and found out actually that these light plastics that they're made out of, because they have to be light to fly, actually mean that the damage is far less than people expected. So it may well be when this drone impact test is done against the engine, we actually find out it goes all the way through, gets burned up, and does very little damage. And in fact, it could fly back down even with that engine. Now, we don't know if that'll be the case, but that is one of the potential outcomes.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because Assure did say that they didn't expect in those original tests. What they said is the plastic gives like a crumple zone, which was really interesting. So, and like I say, those plastics have got lighter and everything's got design changes, but the frames will give. To get the golden shot, typically it does a little bit, yes. But what they said is it's a 6 kilo plus, isn't it, Ian, where the golden shot becomes more common, shall we say?
Yeah, I mean, to answer the question that just came up in the chat, they're using a Phantom because it started off with a Phantom when all this testing began, and all your data becomes it becomes invalid if you start changing drones partway through. So that's the one that when we chatted about it, they said they were using. The drone kind of doesn't matter because you're doing a computer model. So the computer model, you can put a Mavic in, you can put a Matrice. All you're doing is you would say the model is, give me your Phantom model. Let's put the Phantom in. Let's see if it's correct. And if it's not, you would change it around. But the interesting bit is it will mean the actual consequences of what happened are still far more serious than the drones people fly these days, because we're all flying far smaller things. Most people are flying the sub 250 now. And the FAA don't even want us, as far as they're concerned, it's a 250 won't touch it. So they're not even interested in testing that, which in itself is an interesting fact. If the FAA are just 100% confident that there's no case to answer, that in itself is telling. But I would like them, hopefully, just to put that out in the model, just so people can say, well, you've ticked all the boxes. But we will see.
Yeah, no, it's we'll have actual science. That's the thing. There'll be actual science. So good or bad for the industry, there'll be knowns. If it's bad, best we change what we do to make it better. If it's good, tickety boo. And we're going to get similar results out of them. We haven't spoken about it much recently. Out of the chucking things that shows it's a 737 Max. No, it's just a straight 737, isn't it? We could have got a hold of a door. If we'd rushed out quickly, we could have gone and found a side door.
But you only need looking garden for one of those.
Yeah, exactly. Yes, that's right. So there'll be those test results as well, because that's to come. Because so far the tests for aircraft windscreens have been dubious, to say the least, because they've been the wrong windscreens. We need to. The industry needs to be speaking from truth and fact, not from supposition. That's one of our biggest problems. The scaremongering is doing us no favors, and if the facts don't, necessarily meet what we'd hope they would, well, then we'll have to change. But I suspect we'll be all right. I really do.
It was interesting. Actually, I went to the website before chatting just to see if they've put all this information up already. And they're also doing a very large drone test impact against a helicopter now. I thought, why are you picking? But I suspect maybe this is a test of what will happen when there's delivery drones around airports and maybe eVTOLs, that someone's had that thought and said to Assure, can you test this and see what the outcome is? Which is, again, that's that's quite good thinking, to be thinking ahead of when it happens. You know, often in the industry when we're testing stuff, we're doing it years afterwards when people have been arguing about it for God knows how long before it's tested. We're here. If you're testing it before you're even doing the use case, that's a good place to be in.
No, that was a good one. That's a good one to finish. Good one to finish on. I am tired now. FX drones, the drone delivery will never work as payload. Sorry, yeah. Drone delivery is a very, very interesting animal, but we won't go down that rabbit hole now. And I will say to you, wherever you are in the world, thank you very much for joining us. Normal service will resume next week when Bruce is back. Ian's giving you a bit of a heads up. Assure might be along soon when they release those results. He said they'll talk to us. And if you're into your ArduPilot, as I know you are, Kevin, don't forget the developers conference is going to be in Reno, Nevada this year. And yes, they are going to try and hope, if permission can be granted, to do some air racing, but the autonomous kind there. Not the FPV kind, but the autonomous kind. And I know they're also trying to get some boats and rover venues as well and all that sort of thing. So anyway, with that, good night. We'll see you all again 2100 at GMT next week. Look after yourselves, everybody, whatever's happening in your lives. Bye bye for now. 1 click, 2 click.